We are going to have our conversation with Mr. Justin John, and he is one of the coordinators, facilitators of the men's debate that took place yesterday in the chamber, treating with men's issues. All right, good morning and welcome, sir.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Very good. Why was this debate necessary, and what centralized the idea is to have this in the legislature?
So over the course of the term and the session that's currently happening, we've had special sit-ins from the primary plenary to the usual Tobago Day debate, and also International Women's Day was also incorporated. Now, many members of staff, even some members of the current sitting THA, have always asked, what will we do for the men? So we took that feedback and we had a conversation. We presented the idea to Madam Presiding Officer, Ms. Abby Taylor, and we workshopped it, and this is the end result. International Men's Day debate, calling on men and boys to come and debate on a topic of choice.
Mental health was a choice.
Mental health was a choice this round.
I will just talk about some of the men that were, we had Rondell Fields and the role that he played. Was he for or against? Just speak to it. So the motion was moved by who? Mental health as a main issue for men. And let's give, what was the basic, because for those of you who didn't tune in.
Sure.
Basically.
So the motions called upon the THA to create a sustainable multi-sectoral program that addresses the issues for men in Tobago society. Now, we had Mr. Keegan Denoon moving the motion as the minority leader as it calls upon the THA to do something. It was clearly a private member's motion. We had the stand-in Chief Secretary, Mr. Akilabi Holder. Mr. Rondell Fields was a councillor on the majority side, but if you note and if you were listening on the day, you would realize that all of the contributions went towards supporting the motion, even though, most times you tend to see the majority not supporting a minority. This was such an issue that they still throw their jabs, but they recognize the seriousness of addressing men's mental health and also the loss of identity that we as men have in a changing society.
Did you notice any recurring themes or any standout points that were raised during the debate?
So certainly, one of the standout points, and I think it's currently making its way on social media right now, was from the contribution of Edison Thomas. He was the stand-in member for Mount St. George Goodwood, and his contribution went to his story as a father and how not having paternity leave actually, limited the bond that he had at the start of his...
Maternity.
No, there's paternity.
Okay.
Yeah, as a man, what policy is there in place for paternity leave? So that was one of the contributions that really stood out to me. There was another contribution by one of our high schoolers, Mr. Loveless. His contribution went towards how a lot of the issues that we have as men, or the problems we have with men in society, starts because we neglected that young boy, that boy who is raised by a single mother, for example, who feels that he was abandoned by his father. How that translates into problems in our society currently.
And this was the first of its kind, so it's an historic event. But in terms of the debate itself, so you said the majority of the members were all in favor, more or less. We tried some of the jabs in between. But the transition now, based on all the points presented, is it going to directly influence policy changes and so on? What exactly is next on the cards following this debate?
Right, so thank you for the question. Many persons have asked us this. So a lot of persons don't realize that on the Assembly Legislature's website, there's a facility for e-petitions. Now, you can petition your assemblyman, or you can petition the secretary, you can petition the House to effectively debate upon a motion or a topic of your choosing as members of the public. So we now, having incorporated these persons into a People's House initiative of the House. We are now calling on the people. We're having our members currently put together that motion, and you'll be seeing a call for signatures very soon so that we can put together this petition and send it into the House so that they could actually put it onto the order paper and have it debated.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go now to, well, of course, mental health is just one of the issues that are affecting our men. And that can stem from so many different areas. Emasculating our men by some of the women who we have children with, by calling them worthless, and you will never provide, and I will make sure you spend all your days in jail. That issue of maintenance, that is supposed to be shared equally. And that is not a debate. That is not an issue for debate, because we believe, as my colleague was saying, that is meant to provide. But there are some cases where in a custody battle, that let's say that the child or the father wins the custody battle and he has right because the mother is not a proper person. So anyhow, and we believe that the mother is not to contribute to the child. So there's no necessarily maintenance from the mother. She goes her merry way and maybe have other children and so on. That is not a debate, you know. That is not an issue, rather. But shouldn't it be? Because that too can affect the child, that mommy has abandoned her to her father because he won a battle and she turns her back because they let him mind her. Is there an opportunity for a conversation that can be an issue for debate? That he, the father, can take, and it happens take her to court for maintenance of the child?
Well, I don't see the need for the debate always, although I would always encourage it, because I'm a practicing attorney. And that example there is one that I have interacted with a few times already in practice, where I have full-on advocated for a father who has custody of the child, and you know, sometimes you can't raise a child on your own. It is a fact. So when the mother is there balancing all over, bring her to court and get a maintenance order. And I have successfully gotten that on numerous occasions. So it's not that men who are taking care of their child, they should not feel afraid to approach the court for maintenance, because it is your right as the person who is taking care of this child.
All right, so if a guy, and we're dealing with mental health here, we mentioned drugs, I will get to that in a minute, but I want to deal with that whole question of maintenance where a father is locked away because for some reason or the other. Now, you're a practicing attorney.
Yes.
And this is good to have somebody in the law fraternity to speak to this. It has been on the law books that if you are a delinquent father and for somehow you can't maintain your child, whether you're working or not, once the mother signs the warrant, you will be locked away. I don't want to ask you if you have a problem with that, because you're an attorney and of course you have to be neutral until somebody bring up somebody and then you represent them. All right. How do we treat with this matter? Is it a matter that needs to be spoken to and to find other avenues as to get whatever resource you can from the man instead of locking him away? Because that affects his mental state. Because he is in prison and he affects the child. Because his schoolmate may say, your daddy is a jailbird. And that affects that little boy that goes to school and may stay with him for the rest of his life. These social issues that we take for granted and we feel that it's punishment, that we need to punish you because you are, quote unquote, a delinquent father, when in truth and in fact the father really wants to contribute but can't in some ways. From that standpoint, do you see that as an issue to be discussed or debated in our legislature?
From that standpoint, I certainly do. Because many times it's that persons can't, they just can't. They are trying, but they can't meet a threshold that was set by a court. Sometimes they did not even feel like if they had a voice. And I think that goes back to the debates that we want to continue having in the House, where we bring persons in from the community. Because this is how we're going to hear what are the different sides on this specific topic. Am I a father who I can't provide because I don't have a steady job? Or am I a delinquent and, you know, I need to be punished? Or do we look at the fact that when you sentence a person to jail, you aren't supposed to only focus on the punitive side of it. You're not just focusing on punishment. How are you going to restore this person to bring them back into society? So this thing where we have, the system where we have, the mother or father, in either case could happen, as I said. They sign the warrant and, we pull them in and get locked up for maintenance. What is the fix? What is the result? Because I don't think many persons know that in some instances, you could actually just serve the time as opposed to paying the fine. So what does that tell a person who has been locked up for maintenance? Okay, when I reach there now, I'll just go sit my 14 days or 30 days in prison, and then when I come out, I just go in and try and put a little money here, contribute to the court, let her pay the maintenance and go about my day. And then when next I can't make it, I just had to sit the next few months down. That it doesn't go towards restorative justice. It only looks at punishment, and everybody thinks that's smart.
But before Mr. Cox, I like it. You said what is the fix, right? No, and because you are where you are, there needs to be, besides mental health, you see that one, that needs treating with, because it's not just the fella whose mental health it affects. As I said, the generation who is looking on at daddy and wanting to see daddy, and sometimes that child really adores his father, but he can't have access to him because mommy lock him away. And that repercussion goes on and on. In fact, it reverberates now. You spoke about restorative and how do we fix it? What does the state need to do, or what does society need to do? When that fella comes out for the first center, the first 14 days, after he comes out, some arrangement is to be made to have to find out what is his problem, why is he not contributing, why can't he contribute, and how can he contribute to the maintenance of the child. And if we are not debating that, if this is the first time we are having that, and I say from a legal person, because you just tell us that you are a practitioner attorney, but we have not really debated that because we think that that's the way it's supposed to maintain, that a fella is supposed to lock up and mind a child, and if he mind a child, we lock him away, and that's that. Somebody, sir, after this, I would hope, and I'll talk to Randall Fields too, to have us make whatever appeal to the judicial system to adjust this injustice, to address this injustice, because that's what it is. Because it hurts generation down the road. And if we're serious, we stop the hemorrhaging of losing or our men suffering as of mental health that can't function in society. Restoratively, what would be your suggestion?
My suggestion would go towards, you have to have a separate system when it comes to maintenance issues. Many times we look at the fact that a lot of persons are currently in jail right now and how they are affected, even though they know that they might be not guilty, for example, they simply could not pay the bail or such, and that then changes the mind. It affects your mind. So that's a mental issue right there. So now we are putting persons into a situation where I feel like a criminal because I could not provide. And as a man, you are conditioned to feel like a provider. So now you're going into jail now and you're mixing in with all these other persons. If we have a separate system at least, it could be understood, yes, this is how they mean to punish you and show that you are supposed to be paying and maintaining your child. But at the same time, let's build some skills for you. Let's, prop you up in society that you could provide for your child and even provide for yourself.
Mr. John, are you, and let's shift in a bit here now, in your experience, would you say there's still a stigma around men and the ability to seek help from a psychological standpoint, or even we're talking finances, even from a financial standpoint? Is it still a stigma? Is it still a hesitancy as well?
I would say, without fear of contradiction, yes. This was one of the topics that we discussed in one of the training sessions with the debaters, and some of the debaters were confident to say, yes, I have actually sought help, and others admitted that I'm not sure if I feel comfortable, especially in Tobago. Some were saying, maybe I might need to go to Trinidad and ask for psychologists. Because, it's just how our culture is. You feel like if as soon as you talk to somebody, your business out the road. Yeah? And I think that's where the stigma starts, but we need the help. Counseling has so many positive effects on you. And even the debaters who did it, they were like, fellas, this is just my piece of advice. If you have the opportunity to, be confident and ask for the help, because counseling really does help you.
In the debate, and just going back to the debate as well, so there was a training session before.
Yes.
Held by, well, who coordinated the training session? Was it, did you all have experts coming in to speak, or was it strictly the Assembly legislature just based on the debating, from a debating standpoint, as opposed to speaking to the issues even prior to the debate?
Right. So yes, we had subject matter experts. So our training sessions encompass debating. So that's where we have the in-house persons for. We also are procedural. But when it comes to subject matter experts, especially on the topic of debate, we tend to reach out. So in this instance, we call upon Mr. Rondell Fields, who provided a lot of the statistics that are affecting men and boys in society today. But we also called upon the gender unit of the THA, of the Division of Health. And that facilitator was Director Ms. Renee Cozier. Now, that session was very informative for a lot, because it went to the fact that we as Tobagonians and Tobagonian men don't even know all of the facilities that are available. And there was a conversation around the Blue Room and how, it's a space, a safe space for us. And men are actually using it. But that's, just one thing. What about the other areas in our society? That's why we went to a multi-sectoral approach. Health is not the only way that we have failed men, or men have failed men, or society have failed men. What about in the education system? Looking at one of the questions that we put forward to the secretary in standing was looking at the gender disparity in the teaching service. How now are we building proper role models for those young men who are in their formative years? All they have to see is probably a 1-2 male teacher who might give them a piece of advice. And I could tell you for a fact, the 1-2 male teachers have given me advice, and that stuck with me today. So now if we at least had some kind of, equity, or a few more males going into the teaching service and helping our young men, maybe we could see a change in our society.
Was coping mechanism part of the, or coping mechanisms part of the session? Yes.
So one of the questions that we asked the debaters to ponder, and that came as well from the gender unit, was what is your means to deal with your problem? When you are feeling down, when you are feeling overwhelmed, what do you do? Some debaters said, I would go and play a game. Some would say, I really gonna go by the bar. I just gonna sit down there and, I'll drink, and when I'm done, I go back home, I lie down and say a prayer, and that is it. Some say they go to church, they turn inward, they pray. Now, some may frown upon some may, praise others, but these are just the mechanisms that we have had to find for ourselves, because we were not taught how to deal with a problem as a man. You would just say, yeah, you have a problem, dust off your shoulder and keep going. You need to provide, you need to be a man. Don't cry, you need to, you're a girl, be a man.
All right. Right. Given that you're a young man, I would not ask your age, but I suspect you're a very young man, and you are an example of what young men can be. No, and it's a should be it. No. There are young men that are facing crisis. They are bombarded by a number of issues that prevents them from meeting their full manly potential, if I want to say that. All right. So there are those who are seeking careers, but you will find most of them by the roadside needing flour. You would know what I'm talking about. They're needing flour. They're lying with their friend, a long sproof in them out. And most of our young men are absorbed by marijuana usage, the drugs, substance abuse. They are not taking a pull or a smoke in the morning and the next one in the evening. They are doing it for the entire day. if our young men, the future of society, is being taken up with an activity of, because it's going to destroy them eventually, because if you abuse any substance, it's going to destroy you. That is an issue that needs to be spoken to, Mr. John. That we're taking it for granted that it's okay to leave them alone, have nothing to say to them. But if we only leave it, there is psychological damage. There is emotional. There is so many things that could happen if we only leave these young people, to young men in particular, to be destroyed by substance abuse. Marijuana, alcohol, and there are others. They have a new drug now. What they call it? Well, young people think. There's a new drug.
Molly or
polio, wherever she needs, or wherever it is. So let's speak to her. The substance abuse that are engaging most of our young men, that are taking away their productive years. Shouldn't that be, I mean, if you have to ask me, because if we're talking, these fellas who were part of this debate, them all right here. It's okay, them good. But the future, when we look outside and we see them fellas, we say, oh my God, who are going to marry our daughters? Who are going to be the ones that contribute as fathers? Do you see where I'm going?
I do.
Your response.
So to that, I would say many of those young men on the block are brilliant. They have ideas and they have many contributions to make, because one of the programs that we did starting or promoting this debate, we went to the corners in town and we had one of our facilitators interviewing some of them and asking questions, asking them, it's easier to ask for help or it's easier to say I love you? When did you feel or have to feel like a man? And some of the answers were very concerning, because it showed that yes, these are persons who are thinking and they know what is going on, but some choose the distraction and some don't. It just falls into play. So what we want to do in continuing to build out this model of debate and going into the community now is to pull more standing members from those areas there. We literally want the, for lack of a better word, the block boy to come in the house. Well, in the house we dress properly, but use your twang. Come and talk and share your ideas and share how you think you could help your brothers. Because it's only those who are in it could, really say, this is the why, this is the how, and this is what you need to do to solve it.
Men's responsibility, so we go into a nuclear family now, right? And daddy is looked upon. For example, let's say he's an attorney like yourself, or he's somebody of prominence. There's a young man, a little boy, who wants to be like me. And I have to be an example, and I have to maintain that because he's watching everything I do. I cannot differ from being the model or that he sees that I am, and what I need to do to ensure he gets to where he wants to be. No. There are other influencers or people in society that impact other young people that we may not pay attention to. So daddy in the house, the little boy who's his son, and he grows up and he knows daddy and daddy's there with him and so on. But for some reason, daddy don't see him as his responsibility to inspire him, to motivate him, and he just sees him as his son. What does father need, or what fathers need to do to be that role model, to be that father figure, quote unquote, so that the son is not influenced by nobody outside? My daddy tell me, as little as he is, somebody might tell him, go and carry that by so and so. My daddy say not to carry that. My daddy say, and there are children who will repeat what daddy say and what mommy say. But there are some who will not, because the daddy has not necessarily given them the guidance. Those fathers, we need to speak to them because they have reneged, even though they're providing for the child in the house, but they are not that figure for the child. Speak to it.
So, once again, I like the fact that a lot of your questions actually were topics of conversation in our training sessions. Fatherhood was a big one because we had men in there whose fathers full-on abandoned them, and we had men in there with fathers who were so present that it felt like if they were sputtered, and they would not say, daddy say, right? So now as a father, some of these men really have had to look into themselves and realize, just as you said, I am an example for this young boy. And every single thing that I do is going to be mirrored by him. Now, for the men who have, reneged, as you say, we really need to pull them back in to that family structure, even though most times, the woman might move on and have somebody else there or things like that, but your role as a father, unfortunately, it never disappears because, as a son, you are always looking to your father or looking for a father.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. So you have to really pull them back in. And, thankfully, there are systems like, for example, co-parenting and all those things there. We have these systems. We need more. But let's utilize the systems that we have. Let's not degrade them or say they don't work, because co-parenting counseling actually does work.
Because, as we get ready to close, right? Because I didn't have a father, I would come here and quote things that my mother said to me. Mm-hmm. Mommy said to me, and Jumaane would be aware, I would say, my mother told us, because there was no father to tell me. Mm-hmm. So I still refer to what my mother said that helped to guide me in this world today. So the importance of father. We got to close, Mr. Cox.
Yeah, just before we close, in terms of the debate happened earlier this week. Would there be anything specifically happening on the 19th on International Men's Day, and what is the next step? I know you mentioned the petition and so on, and you could feel free to reiterate that point. But what is next on the agenda?
So next on the agenda, we have some more content of the conversations that we had with the young men and boys in the community, and also what we also had some conversations on site in work that we want to share. And those would come out within the week of International Men's Day. This was our commemoration for International Men's Day, although it wasn't on the 19th. But I would say look out for the petition, because we don't want it to just be a talk shop on Monday and that is it. The conversations that we have been generating have been more than we expected. It turned a lot of heads. So we want to continue the good work and put it forward to our leaders as they are right now to hear, these are what the people want. These are what they are saying. Let's hear what you have to say and how you could put forward a policy to, effect that change.
And the entire debate is available on the Assembly Legislature's page as we speak.
Yes, it is. So just go to Assembly Legislature. If you want, you could type in International Men's Day debate and you'd find it. That's whether it's on. So you could go to Facebook or you could go to the YouTube page and you'd find it there.
Mr. John, it was a pleasure. I wish we could continue this conversation next time around. Yes. And as a practicing attorney, I can see you making some good arguments to win your cases. And so we just want to encourage you, and you're a fine model, a young man who can be an influence to other young men. And I would hope that you are, I don't want to say used, but can make your impact in the society, given that, you're a positive young man. Yeah? And good things would follow you, sir. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
All right, good.